guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to part 2 of this, not really series, but this video or whatever about my journey to working for now a major US airline and how I got here, why I chose or why I went with a regional first versus just going straight to the majors or the mainline legacy carriers. I started pursuing this career almost 3 years ago, or roughly. That's about almost how long it took me to get with the airline that I'm at currently. I've been here for 9 months, and in case you just happen to miss the last video, the regional I work for is Envoy Airlines, or excuse me, worked for. And it's been great, like I've said before, but I've chosen to move on. So 2.5 years ago, I started this journey. I applied to every airline that was out there hiring for flight attendants. I got invited to, so the general interview process to get hired as a flight attendant is to first apply, of course. Second step is a video interview, usually, or some sort of virtual interview. Some airlines have different ones. Some people only you have to do an assessment and then you get invited, or there's just different things. Usually there's a second step though along the way of some sort, whether it's a phone interview or whatever. And then if you get through that, you get invited to a face-to-face. And I've kind of talked about this before, but a face-to-face, obviously they would either fly you out or you would get yourself to the interview. Some have hiring events that you just show up at and you do your best and you get the job or you don't. But a lot of them tend to invite you. It's a personal invite and it's invite only. So that's kind of the process and the steps that you have to take to get the job opportunity. So the first airline I applied for was American. Well, technically it was the one that I'm going to work for now, but I kind of just swept it under the rug once American invited me to do their video interview. So I did the video interview with American and got turned down the first time. No big deal. I was still doing hair at the time. And then I applied a second time. This was in like May or June. Well, excuse me. The first time was in about May or June of 2016-ish. That kind of sounds right. Anyways, somewhere in there, that's when I started applying. No, I'm sorry. I first applied to American in the fall of 2016. And then I got a video interview, but didn't get past it. That was okay. I was doing hair at the time, so I just kept trying. So 6 months later, I had to wait. Usually they make you wait, any airline makes you wait a few months from the time that you've been rejected to reapply. It can be 6 months to a year. So 6 months later, I reapplied. That was in May or June of 2017. And I got invited to the face-to-face. It was my very first face-to-face, and it wasn't my best. I'll give it that. It really wasn't. And I left, obviously, without a job offer. I've reapplied once since coming to Envoy and got to the video interview again, but unfortunately, they didn't pick me. That's okay. It is what it is. So that was the first 3 rejections, technically, from American. Then I applied with, during that time, I was also applying to United anytime I could. I have done 4 video interviews with United Airlines and been turned down every single time. And just this year, I went to a face-to-face with them. I felt like it went really well. I left my heart and soul in that interview, but unfortunately, again, it was a rejection, and it's hard. It's really hard. Actually took me 1.5 years almost 2 years from the time that I applied to Southwest. And in December of 2017, I went to, in December of 2017, I actually got invited to a face-to-face with them, and it just, again, wasn't my best. I was way too nervous and worked up. It wasn't my best go at it. It really wasn't. And I wish I'd done things differently, but you can't change the past. So it is what it is. So then once all that kind of fell through, I had applied for Envoy in March of 2018. And I heard back for a video interview about a month later, I want to say. I did the video interview, and then about a couple weeks later, I got invited to come to Dallas for their face-to-face. And that's where I received my CJO, which of course is contingent job offer. It's contingent on you passing training. And so from there, I was invited to training and given a class date. And since I've been an Envoy, I have been applying to any major or mainline carrier that is hiring, and just continuously trying to work for the larger airlines, which is what I always saw myself at. It's a goal of mine that I always wanted to do. It was actually a goal of mine that I set, like I told myself when I started this journey of becoming a flight attendant and getting here, that I wanted to be at my one airline that I wanted and the one that I was going to keep for the rest of my career by the time I was 30. And I just turned 29, in case y'all didn't know or were trying to guess my age. I just turned 29, so I'm happy to say that that's a goal of mine that I've reached. And y'all know probably what it feels like to have goals and meet them, and I love it. It's just the best feeling in the world. Really hypes you up, you know? Here's kind of the crazy part about, well, excuse me. Let me start with the airline that I'm currently going to be working for and my hiring process for them. I applied March 18th of this year, 2019. In about mid-May, somewhere in there, I remember because I had my United interview scheduled, and I had gotten a video interview invite for my airline that I'm going to work for. And I was like, it gave me like 2 weeks to complete it. So I was like, okay, well, I've got time. And then once I got rejected by United, I was like, okay, cool. I'll go ahead and I have time. I can go ahead and do this video interview. So I did the video interview, completed it for this airline, which will remain unnamed because I just want to keep it private for now. But y'all will know who it is, like I said in my other video, part 1. So I did the video interview, and then about, I don't know, a couple weeks after that, that was May 22nd, I completed the video interview. And a couple weeks later, about 2 or 3, I received my invite to the face-to-face, and this was on June 28th of this year, 2019. And I had to get myself there. It was invite only, of course, but I flew myself to Chicago, which is where the hiring event was. This was by far one of the biggest groups I've ever seen. And I've never been to any sort of event like this, so it was very eye-opening. All of the face-to-faces I've been before at the most had about 30 people in the interview. That's it. But this one had over 520 something people at this face-to-face interview. And we arrived early. You wanted to arrive early. Basically, I already know people that work for the airline, and they had told me, get there early and get yourself situated in line, because the sooner you get there, the earlier you'll get out. The later you get there, or the closer you get, I should say, to the start time, which was 7 a.m., the later you're gonna be there. And it was very true. At the end, there were people that were still going through the process and hadn't gone through everything completely yet. But basically, I arrived at 6 a.m. Ironically enough, one of my friends from training was there as well. My training with Envoy, and we actually got to stay together, so yay, that helped save some money on a hotel room. And because I flew up the night before, the day of the interview, and we actually got to stay together. It felt like we were in training again, you know, and we were just really, really close. So that was nice to be able to see her. And unfortunately, she didn't make it, but since then she has received another job offer, so I'm very excited for her as well. Anyways, we got there at 6 a.m. and once at 7 a.m. they started pulling us into this huge, just big ballroom. It took place at a hotel, and they kind of had different rooms and everything. They were just spread out all over the hotel, with different rooms and areas to do the activities in. So they started pulling us through. We were given a name tag, and that name tag had a colored border around it. Each one was different. There was like yellow or gold, green, red, and blue. And that's how they broke you up. And then you were given a number as well. So number, color, and then your name. And then we were brought into a room. It was thumping. They had music blasting and dancing. I had been told by my friends that the recruiters are watching you. They're always watching you at any of these events or any face-to-face. They're watching you. And depending on the airline, they want you to be very professional, but this particular airline is a lot of fun. And I was dancing. My friends were like, that have gotten hired or know about it, they were like, dance. They're watching you, have fun with it, and just, you know, entertain yourself and mingle and be lively, you know, have a lot of fun with it. So that was awesome. It was very different than any interview I've ever been to. It was very lively, very fun, and just kind of loosened you up a bit. So I was just chatting with people around me, and people were coming in, like I said, by the hundreds at this point. I was very thankful, though, that I did get there so early, because I got there at 6 a.m. and I left at 6 p.m. So we got there. Once that was done, we were done dancing. In flight and other managers and people, flight attendants, all those kinds of things, they introduced themselves, started talking about the company, told us the ins and outs of the job and what it means at this particular airline and all that kind of stuff, and talked it up. And then from there, we were split up into our groups, our color-coded groups. I was in the gold group, and there were probably about 80 to 100 people in each group, roughly, something like that, maybe a little bit more. It just didn't seem like it, but we were taken to a smaller room. And at this point, we were given a fishbowl question. So they had a big fishbowl with questions, random questions in it. And I sat in like the first row because I knew what was going to happen just from my experience and research I've done. I just wanted to get it over with. So I sat in one of the front rows. We were the second group of the front rows. There were two of them to go up one by one and answer your question. And you were given specific instructions to read your name, your number, and read your question, and then answer, and then do your name and number again. Sounds real simple, but your nerves can get the better of you, and there were plenty of people who either put the question back in the fishbowl, they rambled, or they just didn't say their name and number at the end again. There were a lot of mistakes made. So my question that I got, I was so happy I got, because I've answered it before in face-to-faces, and I have a good answer for it. And I think it was, what is something about yourself that you would change and why? Easy for me. But I'm not going to give you my answer, because you got to come up with your own. But anyways, so they asked me that. And after I sat down, after everyone finished, which felt like it took forever because there was a lot of people, even in that little room. Once everybody finished, they gave us about a 15-minute break, and when they came back in, they started reading off numbers, kind of like row by row as they went back. And the people that I knew just didn't do their best up there, I noticed that those were the people that they were calling out of the room, because I was sitting there and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, this is either going to be really, really good, like they're going to call the good people out, or they're going to call the bad. I hate to say that and be negative, but it just is what it is. Like, there's people who just aren't, cut out for it, or going to, do good. So I was just like, oh my gosh, okay, which way is it going to go? And when they started calling the people that I just kind of knew from experience that didn't do well, I was like, okay, good. They're not going to call me because I know I did good. I was like, yay, don't call my number. So once they had left the room, they kind of waited a minute. They told us that we were moving on to the next phase, which was a one-on-one. So from there, we had a lunch break that they provided for us, which was really nice. And after about an hour, we moved into a kind of larger ballroom, and one of the managers came and was actually answering questions that people had, which was really, really nice. I've never had that in an interview. Usually they'll kind of move you to another room and just leave you there. Like, it's real quiet and kind of awkward, but she came in and was answering tons of questions that everyone had, which is really nice. And while she was doing that, other recruiters, these flight attendants, were pulling people out in groups of like 5 or 6 from the different colored groups for one-on-one interviews. Once I got to the one-on-one interview, I waited for a minute outside with like 4 other people, and we went in one by one, and there were multiple stations set up, and they had us do a bag lift. So they had a bag that was loaded up with like 40 or 50 pounds because they want to make sure that you can lift it. Because half the time my luggage probably weighs about that much, and you got to hoist it up. So you just had to pick it up. You either had a chair that you could prop it on, much like a chair in a airplane. So you just propped it up, and then you had to just kind of demonstrate holding it up, or you could just lift it up from the ground and just hold it. It's not like you got to sit there and work out with it or nothing like that. You just had to pick it up and show that you could. So that was easy for me. I've done it plenty of times. I just used the chair. That was easiest for me. And then from there, we sat down and we just had a chat. They asked me customer service related questions, some scenarios, like tell about a time you have a screaming child on board, what would you do? Tell about a time that you were late and what you had done differently. Your most memorable customer service experience, or a time you went above and beyond for a customer, and just different types of customer service related questions. And it felt very natural to answer and chat with them, and I just gave it my all. I gave it my all in that one-on-one. And from there, we were taken out and put into a other room, and then from there they were pulling people out by like 8 to 10 people at a time. And that part was nerve-wracking because I knew it was over with. I had done everything, from that point, and I had done my best. So we waited, and they called us out, and about 10 of us to a group, and we went up a corridor of the hotel, and we kind of rounded this corner. And y'all know, like, when you're leaving a hotel and there's 2 doors, and then there's like a mid space between the doors, and then that second door leads to the outside. Well, they walked us into this little small area, and I'm like, okay, are they really just gonna like kick us out and make us leave right now? Like, what if we didn't drive here? Like, they're really gonna just kick us out this back side door kind of thing? But anyways, we waited right there in that little spot, all just kind of like, what the heck? And there were 2 recruiters in there with us that had let us out. And one of them, she starts saying, thank you so much for applying with us. We know that you've spent time to come here today, and what did she say? She was just very poker face, like straight up. I didn't know which way it was gonna go. And she just kind of kept, slowly telling us, thank you for coming. We know you've spent time, and congratulations, you're moving on to the next round, and you've been invited to training. We were thrilled. We were all jumping, hooping, and hollering. Another recruiter came in and was like, whoa, y'all need to like chill out. But we were so happy. I told her, though, I was like, you are doing that poker face way too well. You need to stop that. That is not good for your health or mine, because I'm having a heart attack right now. Like, no. It was awesome, and she was so cool. So sweet. Gave her a big hug, and we were all hugging and super excited. And then from there, we were fingerprinted and did a drug test. At the time of the fingerprinting, we got to choose our first and second choice for base. I have never heard of an airline that let you select a base or try and even put in a request for a base before you ever even get to training. Usually you get to training and you're just given a base and you don't get to even pick, and then you get to transfer, or you get to list out what you want, but you're not going to get it, and you're still going to get what you get. And that is still obviously a possibility, but you get to pick your first and second choice at this particular airline. I loved that. And my two selections were Dallas, obviously, because it's still in Texas. It's where I'm based now. I know the I know the airport and the area of Dallas like the back of my hand at this point, and I really wanted to stay here. So Dallas was my first choice. Las Vegas was my second, because it just seemed like a fun base to be at. This airline has bases in Dallas, Las Vegas, Chicago, Detroit, Atlantic City, Orlando, and Fort Lauderdale. So 7 bases. And Dallas and Las Vegas were my 2 picks. And I'm happy to say I got Dallas-Fort Worth. I am so happy to be staying in Dallas. I know the area. I know that airport. And plus, I'm going to get to see, hopefully, my family, my little friends and flight attendant family from Envoy. I'm very excited that I get to stay in that area and hopefully get to see them from time to time. Now, here's kind of the crazy part. Honestly, the only way I can explain this is that it has to be, for me, it's God. It's just God's plan for me. For those of you that are spiritual or whatever, believe in the universe, bringing this your way, whatever you believe, for me, this is just kind of incredible, like a really cool story that I have to share with you guys. So, like I said, I originally applied for Envoy and for this airline in March of different years. I got my video interviews in May of both of the years at both of the airlines. And I went to the face-to-face interview with both airlines at the same time. But here's where it gets even crazier. I, like I said, was invited to this face-to-face June 28th of 2019. After I got my CJO, I was thinking about it and I was like, wait a minute, when did I knew that my face-to-face with Envoy was around that same time. So I looked back in my emails to when I went to my face-to-face with Envoy, and it was June 27th of last year, 2018. Literally 1 year and 1 day from the date of hire, or from the date of my CJO with this airline. I received my CJO a year prior with Envoy. Here's where it gets even crazier. The 27th of June is my parents' wedding anniversary. So that's just kind of crazy right there. The number on my name tag was number 27, which just kind of even is crazier, but it was also my file number in training at Envoy. Like, how crazy is that? How crazy is the fact that would just work out that way? Like, it just made it more meant to be once I got my CJO with this airline I'm going to currently work for. It really just helped reinforce the feeling of that this is meant to be, and that this is where I'm meant to be at and who I'm meant to work for my career. But anyways, enough rambling. That's it for this little series of videos about me and my hiring process and how I've gotten to where I'm at today and my journey to this point. Thank you so much for watching. Again, thank you for your support. For those of you that have subscribed, I love hearing from you guys. And for those of you that are new, again, welcome, and I hope you will continue along this journey with me. Thanks for watching again.